Today we're checking out the all-new Xiaomi YU7 GT. What does it actually look like in person, and what's it like once you get behind the wheel? In this video, we're going through everything in detail.
A quick shout out to our automotive partner in China for sharing this video and helping make it possible. Thank you for your support. Hey everyone, it's Michael from Prime Auto. If you enjoy staying up to date with the latest automotive news, reviews, and industry updates, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of our exciting content. Thanks for watching, and let's get started.
Let's begin with the exterior design. At first glance, the YU7 GT doesn't appear dramatically different from the standard YU7 lineup, but since this is the flagship version, Xiaomi has added several exclusive touches that help separate it from the rest. One example is the optional gold-plated emblem along with a dedicated front splitter. Around the headlights and air vent sections, you'll also notice extensive carbon fiber trim. And honestly, carbon fiber plays a huge role in giving any performance car that proper sporty identity. Another standout feature is the new cherry red paint finish. The way this color has been tuned is seriously impressive. It genuinely looks like the shade of a real cherry. A deep, dark red mixed with a subtle purple tone. Xiaomi really nailed the color calibration here, and the result feels premium and unique. From the side profile, the car keeps the classic YU7 proportions. The long front-end design is still there, while the carbon fiber side mirrors add a more aggressive touch. Lower down, there's also a GT badge to remind you this isn't the standard model. The wheel setup is equally serious, featuring Michelin PS5 performance tires with 265 width tires at the front and massive 295 width tires at the rear. Combined with the wider body kit and expanded wheel arches, the GT looks noticeably more muscular, especially from the back. Moving to the rear, carbon fiber continues to appear in several sections, helping maintain that high-performance appearance. Down below, there's a much more aggressive rear bumper design, and the center section can be electronically adjusted to generate additional downforce when needed. And those 295 rear tires look absolutely enormous from this angle. Their width gives the car a seriously planted and powerful stance. Overall, the original YU7 design was already very successful, so Xiaomi didn't completely redesign the GT version. Instead, they focused on upgrading smaller details with carbon fiber parts and sporty trim pieces to highlight its luxury performance character. The new particle rainbow-inspired color option is incredibly satisfying to look at. Now let's move inside and check out the interior. The cabin layout of the YU7 GT remains very similar to the standard version. In fact, if you already own a high-spec Max version with premium options, you might not immediately notice the difference. The biggest visual change is the steering wheel, which now uses carbon fiber construction. The Alcantara-style materials throughout the cabin instantly create a stronger sense of luxury and sportiness. The dashboard area also features additional carbon fiber elements, along with a GT-exclusive roof visor theme. Xiaomi has also wrapped the headliner and door panels in Alcantara-style materials, which makes the cabin feel much more premium, both visually and to the touch. Throughout the interior, you'll also spot several GT badges reminding you that this is the top-spec performance model. The red sport seats trimmed with Alcantara definitely look more performance-focused, and the GT embroidery adds a nice finishing touch. Aside from these changes, though, the interior doesn't differ too dramatically from the earlier Max versions we've already seen. In the rear seats, most of the changes come from the large carbon fiber paneling up front and the more aggressive-looking red seat belts. Beyond that, the overall rear seat experience remains very similar to previous versions. So, after checking out both the exterior and interior, my personal feeling is that the YU7 GT still isn't visually aggressive enough. Whether outside or inside, the differences compared to the previously expected Max version aren't especially dramatic. You don't get an ultra-wild front fascia or a massive carbon fiber rear wing that instantly screams performance. Maybe Xiaomi's goal here was to create a luxury high-performance SUV that feels refined and comfortable rather than overly flashy. But what really matters is how the YU7 GT drives. So let's talk about the driving experience. Right away, the YU7 GT feels completely different from the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra we tested previously. The SU7 Ultra always felt extremely tense and ready to attack at any moment. Its personality was built around racing DNA, with nearly everything focused on track-style performance. The YU7 GT takes a very different approach. This car feels more centered around comfort, luxury, sporty driving, and everyday usability. As most people already know, the YU7 offers multiple driving modes, but today we'll mainly focus on comfort mode, sport mode, and sporty mode impressions. Starting with comfort mode, the car still delivers 560 horsepower, which is already more than enough for daily driving and commuting. The acceleration feels strong without becoming exhausting during regular use. In terms of steering feel, honestly, it doesn't feel very different from the YU7 Max I drove frequently before. The steering weight is tuned on the heavier side, which actually suits a sporty SUV quite well. Even though the steering has some weight to it, the car never feels overly nervous or hypersensitive. You don't get that instant twitchy reaction from tiny steering inputs. Instead, it focuses more on delivering a smooth and comfortable grand touring experience. Compared to the standard YU7 Max, though, the chassis setup has clearly been improved. I mentioned before while driving the YU7 Max that its suspension sometimes felt a little too soft and floaty, almost giving off a grocery getter kind of feeling. But with the YU7 GT, even in comfort mode, the chassis immediately feels much more refined and higher quality. And honestly, that premium driving feel mainly comes from the upgraded hardware underneath the car.
The car comes equipped with a dual-motor CDC suspension setup, along with a B-type dual-chamber air cooling system. Combined with chassis tuning developed with help from Central European experts and the debut of the Jiaolong Chassis Master Edition, the overall driving feel becomes much more refined and sophisticated. When driving over smaller imperfections and tiny road vibrations, the suspension does an excellent job of absorbing them, creating a strong sense of isolation from the road. Most of those minor bumps are filtered out so smoothly that the cabin stays impressively comfortable. Even when the road gets rougher with larger potholes or uneven surfaces, the chassis still delivers outstanding support and stability. What's especially impressive is that even in comfort mode, the suspension doesn't feel overly stiff. Instead, it has this perfectly balanced softness that makes the entire driving experience feel premium and natural. Of course, the personality of the car changes dramatically depending on which mode you select. Once you switch the Xiaomi YU7 GT into sport mode, power jumps all the way up to 815 horsepower. That's already more than enough for drivers who want a much more aggressive and exciting experience. In sport mode, the throttle instantly becomes sharper, the pedal response feels much more direct, and the steering weight increases noticeably. The steering also becomes extremely responsive, so even small inputs make the front end react immediately. At that point, the whole setup starts to feel perfectly aligned with what you'd expect from a true performance-focused vehicle. The chassis tuning changes as well, becoming tighter and more controlled. Small road vibrations and feedback are still filtered carefully before entering the cabin, but now you get a clearer connection to the road beneath you. When driving over larger dips or bumps, the suspension reacts quickly and settles almost instantly without unnecessary body movement. This setup gives you a huge amount of confidence behind the wheel, especially as speeds climb higher. The chassis support feels incredibly solid, and the stability during cornering is genuinely impressive. Once you reach around 120 kilometers per hour, the car still feels so composed that it almost feels like you're casually cruising at 80 kilometers per hour, which is honestly remarkable. Then comes the most extreme setting, Sport Plus mode. Here, output climbs to an incredible 1,003 horsepower. This is made possible by the V8S Evo electric motor, helping the car deliver brutal acceleration and a top speed of 300 kilometers per hour. In today's EV world, people often say making a fast electric car is easy, but building something this powerful, this quick, and capable of reaching such a high top speed is still extremely impressive. And of course, performance alone isn't enough. A car this fast also needs serious braking capability. The U7 GT uses 6-piston brake calipers at the front and 4 pistons at the rear, paired with tantalum brake discs. Even during aggressive driving or track sessions, the braking system is already strong enough without needing aftermarket upgrades. Performance testing showed that after 10 consecutive braking runs from 180 kilometers per hour, there was basically no noticeable drop in braking performance. That alone gives a lot of confidence in the durability and consistency of the system. In this mode, the chassis setup with its large rubber-mounted axle creates an extremely sporty driving sensation while still offering strong support and very clear road feedback. Honestly, the feeling is quite similar to the experience you get from some high-end German luxury sports cars. It delivers that same connected and confidence-inspiring character. I think most people have already seen the images Xiaomi shared showing the talented engineers and specialists behind the project. Thanks to that team, Xiaomi's chassis tuning and driving dynamics have improved at an incredibly fast pace. One more thing worth mentioning is the sound insulation. Compared to the U7 Max I drove previously, the GT feels even quieter. The U7 Max was already impressive for its price range, but the GT takes things a step further. Whether it's wind noise or outside environmental noise, the cabin remains incredibly quiet. What surprised me most was how well it controlled chassis and tire noise. Considering the car uses very wide performance tires, you'd normally expect a noticeable amount of tire roar, especially at higher speeds. But during today's drive, even while pushing the car harder, there wasn't any unusually loud tire noise entering the cabin. So, overall, the NVH performance here is genuinely excellent for this segment. To wrap things up, I've always tried to stay objective when talking about Xiaomi products. I'll point out both the positives and the negatives honestly. But when Xiaomi does something well, I'm also willing to give credit where it's deserved. For a relatively young car company that has only existed for around 5 years, Xiaomi has already achieved some genuinely impressive results. Whether it's track performance, massive horsepower figures, or the materials and technology used throughout the car, these are upgrades that truly improve the actual driving experience. What makes this lineup interesting is that Xiaomi isn't just chasing flashy headlines. The company seems focused on slowly building and improving its performance cars step by step for the long term. Recently, we've also seen a lot of attention around the U7 GT and its Nürburgring testing results, and honestly, I hope more domestic brands, especially those trying to build performance cars, follow the same philosophy. If you want people to believe your car is truly sporty and powerful, then prove it on the track. Real performance results are what earn respect. To become a true track legend, you first have to compete on the track and continue improving lap after lap. So, who exactly is the U7 GT made for? If your budget is tight, or if buying this car would require stretching your finances too far, then honestly, this probably isn't the right choice for you. Just like the previous Xiaomi SU7 Ultra, this is a niche performance-focused machine that sits above the regular versions in both price and exclusivity. And of course, resale value is still something buyers need to seriously consider if that matters to them. But if you already have the budget and simply want an exciting performance toy to enjoy, then this car really stands out. This is currently the most premium version of the U7 lineup and arguably one of the highest performing pure electric SUVs available right now. The starting price of the Xiaomi YU7 GT in China is 389,900 yuan, which converts to roughly $57,383. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.